This is the story of Goliath.
I was freaking out the first time I got pictures of this deer. I couldn't believe that I was getting an opportunity at a deer of this caliber. And then it came down to just one night.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This story begins in 2017 when I harvested my first archery buck. That was a very special moment in my life, and I'll never forget that one. That lit a fire underneath me. I fell in love for archery hunting right then and there. So with that being said, I started following a few hunting YouTube pages, one being Midwest Whitetail. I also started talking to a few buddies that were bigger into deer hunting. They helped me get a start. So I harvested a few more good deer over the next few years, and I learned something. You gotta pass the good deer to get to the great deer. So that takes us into last year, where the story for Goliath starts. Summer of 2022 comes rolling around. I knew that I'd have to spend a lot of my summer scouting. A lot of evenings, few mornings, but I just knew that if I was able to find deer, it may lead to new permissions. With that, I loaded up the pickup. I spent a lot of time in my pickup driving around, finding deer in the fields, and learning what they were doing. I picked up a few permissions that summer, and I was hopeful that the 2022 fall hunting season would be something special. So I got out all my trail cameras at the end of the 2022 summer, and I had a lot of good bucks on camera that I knew if they made it another year, it was going to be game on for some really, really good bucks. So in that case, I opted to take the most mature buck that I had on camera, which was a stud 8-pointer. I was more than happy with that deer because I was able to self-film the hunt. But the card ended up getting corrupted, so we lost all the footage for it. So that's why it never broke the light of day. So after that, Colby and Brad finished out the year and tag out. And we just had one of the best years that we've ever had before. So going into 2023, all of our hopes were high on how good of a year that it would be. So come June, I set out and put out all my cell cameras. I get them on mineral sites to see what would show up. And I just waited from there to see the bucks start pouring in. And from the early development in June, I could tell that there were some studs that I had on camera. I was very hopeful going through the summer that a few of them would blow up into giants. But with the harsh winter and the dry summer, a lot of the bucks that I thought would blow up into something put on very few inches. But there's still one deer that I had my eyes on, and we called him Sebum, because from June he was sporting a full 8-point frame with a whole bunch of trash off of his bases, and he was one of the biggest deer that we had on camera, and he was also very mature. So I was very hopeful going around to season that he'd stick around. But sadly, a week before the deer disappears, no trace of him anywhere. I set out that weekend to go try and find him in a different food source and was not able to find him. And we still to this day do not know what happened to the deer. He hasn't shown back up on camera at all. So I guess we'll find out next summer if he just moved out of the area or if he died.
So with opening weekend coming around, I decided that I was going to go sit with Colby since Sebum disappeared. So me and Colby set out to go sit for one of his target bucks while I filmed and he had the bow in hand. We weren't able to fill his tag, so the next weekend came around and I decided that I was going to go out and sit at the buck nest just to see if Sebum might turn up. But he didn't. So I was back to square one at that point, and Colby and Brad kept sitting for their target deer while I was trying to figure out which deer to go after next. And that brings us to David. So I just found David as the next best thing. He was a stud 10-pointer, high 140s, and I was looking forward to chasing after him because as the summer went on, the deer seemed like he was more mature than we thought he was towards the beginning, and he kind of ran the show at his spot. Earlier in the summer, I decided to set up a blind there just for the hell of it, just to have one there just in case something big did show up, because that spot's notorious for having big deer later on in the season. So with that, I decided to chase after David. But before I could even do that, something even bigger showed.
And I could not believe my eyes, what I was looking at. Because the rest of the deer this year had put on very few inches, and I could not believe that a deer of this caliber was around in our area, and I had no idea about it until it showed up on my camera. Because I had been scouting around there on the weekends pretty hard trying to find David. But I did not know that this deer was in the area. So with that, I was freaking out. I snapped Colby and Brad and sent them the pictures of this deer, and they couldn't believe what they were looking at either. And I knew that if I played my cards right, I may have a chance at this deer. So with this deer showing up, me and Colby were super excited to go back and try and find this deer last year, if we had it on camera, because this was the biggest deer that we had on camera this year. Go back to our albums from last year and start looking through the trail camera pictures from this spot and other spots near this place. And we were able to turn up the deer last year. And the only way we were able to tell that they were the same deer, just because of how big the deer grew this year, was by the split ear that it had. What are the chances that there's two deer in the same area with the same split ear? Not very common. And was super mature this year. At least 5.5. He went from being a 140-inch 8-pointer this past year with a few little points coming out to a 16-point buck that's scrowers in the 180s. I set out and went and dump feed because I hadn't been feeding very consistently at this spot. And I knew that if I put down something that he may have never seen before, like sugar beets, that it might entice him to start coming into the spot more. So I put down a little bit of sugar beets and some corn, and I just waited. And then he showed up again the next night. And then the next night he daylighted at like 6:50, which was right at the tail end of legal light. So I went in and hunted Sunday. What's going on, you guys? It's September 17th. And this guy's hunting tonight. It's my second sit of the year. I'm going to sit a different spot tonight where I have an absolute giant on camera. I didn't think this deer was going to stick around like he has. I thought he was going to show up one day and then come back later on in the season if he didn't get shot. But he ended up showing back up the past 3 days in a row and daylighted last night. So I figured I should probably sit tonight since the wind's good. And I've had a feeling in my gut all for like the past 3 days since Friday telling me that I should sit. I don't know if it's a good or bad feeling. I'm going to go there with an open mind, see what happens tonight, and go from there. But I'm super pumped to be hunting. And it's beautiful out. It's supposed to drop in temperature tonight, but the pressure's also dropping, so I don't know how I feel about that. But it's early in the season, so I don't know how big of a factor that plays in it. I got the cameras with me and everything is ready to rip, so I'm just gonna go from there and see what happens. But yeah, I'll catch back up with you guys when I'm getting everything ready to go sit. So I guess that means just stay tuned. Alright guys, I'm gonna get dressed quick and then get headed over. Well guys, I got set up in here and got all the cameras and stuff set up. And we got a great win for tonight. So that's good. And yeah, didn't spook any deer on the way in, and they haven't started coming in yet. They don't usually start coming in until like 6:45. So we'll see. I've had this blind set up in here for about a little over a month, so the deer have gotten pretty used to it. I think the pile's around 21 to 26 yards away of beads, so I can shoot that pretty easy. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. But I'm not gonna really do too much talking when they get here because they're pretty close and I'm ground level with them. And yeah, sit here till dark and get out of here and gonna practice drawing back the bow quick and then get to the sit. I'm not really trying to explain a whole bunch, just that we got a good win. This blind's been set up for a while, so the deer are pretty used to it. The sucker that I'm after in here, the deer that we didn't think was going to be consistent and ended up being fairly consistent and daylighted last night. Yeah, I'm just gonna hold out here and wait for her. If he don't show, he don't show, and if he does, you best believe I'm gonna be ready. You gotta be kidding me. The doe was just coming in. And I don't know what happened, but she got bugged out. Like my wind was almost going right at the pile. She got bugged out and took off. Oh my goodness. Oh, what the heck was that? Like, what the heck? I'm checking the wind right now. Let's see what it does. Because that's bull crap. No way. It's going north. That makes no sense. It's supposed to be coming from the south. Oh my god, this isn't good. That is not good. I got a doe up on in front of me right now. He showed up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I knew that, hey, he's showing up pretty consistently right now. Like, there's still a chance. So I didn't hunt Monday, and then Tuesday morning, I got pictures of the deer at 6 o'clock in the morning. And the last time he showed up at 6 o'clock in the morning, he daylighted. So I called my boss. He allowed me to take work off, and I went in there on Tuesday and sat. It's September 19th. I sat on Sunday, which was September 17th. And I didn't see that buck, that giant that's been showing up on camera. But this morning, he did something that was pretty weird. The night that he daylighted, which was Saturday night, that morning he showed up at 6 o'clock, and he was there for about 15 minutes. So like, he left at like 6:14, 6:15. And this morning, he showed up at 6 o'clock again and left at 6:16. Well guys, we're headed in right now. Stay tuned, guys. We're soloing this tonight. Let's go. Let's go. Shout out to Ashton for letting me get work off. Oh guys, I just got set up in the blind. It was a warm walk in here. And yeah, it's about 6 o'clock. I got about 45 minutes until deer. Like a whole bunch of the deer start flowing in. It seems like at night. But on my way in, there's a doe feeding in the field. Probably like 15 yards away from my blind. On the other side of this shelter belt. And I just lightly bumped her. And she didn't blow or anything. She just ran into the CRP and then into the woods. So that's good. Didn't spook her too bad. I'll probably end up seeing her again tonight. But yeah, no, it's gonna be tough staying cool in here. I'm sweating bad. But yeah, we're dealing with a southwest wind. Southwest wind, and yeah, we're just gonna sit and see what happens. It's hot, not ideal, but we'll work with it. Pressure's at 29. But yeah, we're gonna pop a Zin, get my release on it, and draw back and see if I need to move my chair around anymore or not. I think I should be pretty good though, right here. And then yeah, just sit back and wait for the deer to start flowing in, and hopefully not sweat too bad. But I did scent kill really good and sprayed down the blind and all that, so I think I should be okay. Especially with the wind. It should be good. I cracked the window over here on the side, so if I do get a west breeze, it hits me and feels good. So yeah. Oh guys, I just had a donut fawn come from the west, and they came and stood by the pile for a few seconds and walked out through the shelter belt to the beam.
CRP didn't stop at the peat pile, the pile of beans, the heat, and just went straight out into the beans.
He started showing up super inconsistent, and I didn't know what the heck had happened. He was showing up every 2 days, every 4 days, and then it could be like every other day or 2 days. I mean, he just threw a weird pattern and was not super consistent. And like when I would get a picture of him, he wasn't sticking around very long because I'd get one picture of him coming across the pile and going back to where he was coming from. So at that point, I kind of got down in the dumps, but I still wasn't trying to get my hopes up. So after I sat that Tuesday and he came super sporadic, I sat that Saturday and Sunday because we had a cold front push in, and my buddies thought I probably should, since it's a deer of a lifetime. If that deer gets up and moves, he might come in daylight, even though he was being super sporadic. I sat that Saturday and Sunday. It was super rainy, and I saw very minimal deer movement. Few does came in, but I still wasn't down in the dumps over that. So then I went back to watching the trail cameras to see what this deer was doing. So we were closing in on October, and I knew that I'd either have a pretty good chance of this deer in October or I wouldn't be able to harvest him, just with how many hunters were in the area. So I made my mission at the beginning of October. I set out and made a whole bunch of mock scrapes in this piece, and on a few of my other pieces, just trying stuff out, seeing if there was any other mature bucks that had moved into some of my other permissions where I wasn't running a camera, so I decided to run mock scrapes over there. So after I sat that Sunday, I didn't have the deer on camera for 6 days, but it was also very, very warm, and all of my cameras had slowed down. But the next week, there was a monster cold front pushing in. And I just knew that maybe that might get him to start showing up more consistently, and maybe might bring him in daylight. So that following Sunday, I get pictures of the deer at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was super pumped because he had been gone for 6 days. I thought maybe somebody else had shot him and tagged out on him. But when I saw pictures of him, I got super pumped again. And then I just waited for the next day's pictures. I was at work Monday, and I had seen that the deer missed daylight by 10 minutes. I could not believe it. This cold front actually got him up and moving to my area in daylight. So I didn't get super excited. I knew that he was starting to show up in daylight, but he only did it one time. And I was excited to see the next day's pictures, just in case the deer came back. The next morning, we got pictures. The deer came back again in the middle of the night. He very rarely showed up 2 times in one night, so I thought that was a little different. So then the evening comes, I get pictures again. The deer missed daylight by 5 minutes. I could not believe it. I was like, I don't know, I gotta try and get work off tomorrow. Colby and Brad were telling me, you have to get work off tomorrow because you don't understand. Like, this is a deer of a lifetime. Like, when are you ever gonna have another opportunity at a deer like this? So I went back to thinking, and I was like, I gotta text my boss the next morning. So I texted him. I said, hey, the deer's been doing this. Is there a chance that I can get work off tonight? And if I don't shoot the deer, I'll come in after I'm done hunting. And he didn't respond for hours. He texted me and says, yes, you can go hunting. So I was super pumped. I gotta thank my boss for letting me have the day off. And I got ready to go hunting. I headed out to the stand at 4 o'clock. I got dressed at 4:15 and started my walk to the blind.
Well, guys, I just got set up. in the blind. Got the blind sprayed down with scent killer. And got the cameras set up. And got the backpack situated, and yeah, now it's just time to sit. We're in here after Goliath. It's gonna be a good night. It's cooled off a lot since this is like the first cold push of this year. And it's gonna bring a little wind and a little weather, but it's supposed to mellow out towards this weekend. So if I don't get a chance tonight to get it done, I got a lot of time left. So yeah, I don't got much to say. Popped a good old Zimbabwe in the mouth. Gonna let that simmer and burn the lip and just sit. And hopefully see some deer tonight, and hopefully he comes out. I think there's a good chance of him coming out. And yeah, just wait and see what happens. I'm pumped though. Oh, I'm pumped. Colby and Brad are both sitting, I'm pretty sure. So any one of us could fill a tag tonight. And one of us has got to fill a tag this weekend. Just with the conditions, it's gotta happen. So yeah, stay tuned.
I started seeing a few does start popping out of the trees and into the CRP around 6:30. A few of them went out to the bean field to eat, so I knew that maybe there was a chance that they might come back and eat on the pile. With that, all of a sudden, there was a whole bunch of deer coming out of the trees, and I could not believe it. There were so many deer that just came out at one time. I was like, this is awesome. This is already one of the best sits this year so far. And then I saw a spike. So that spike makes its way out and it decides to go out to the soybeans and eat. And when he went out to the soybeans, he bumped a whole bunch of the does that went out to the field to eat onto the pile. And he came in, looked at the pile, and turned around and went back out into the field eating. And then a doe and a fawn start coming in, and I'm filming them walking to the pile. Finally, I notice him in the background. I start freaking out, and I think this is where I'll just let the video do its talking.
Oh my God, guys. It happened tonight. Oh my gosh. He came out so early. Oh my gosh, dude. He came out so early. He came out at... It's pretty late now, but it's just ending illegal right now. But he literally came out, I don't know, 6:50 and ate on the pile for like 10-15 minutes just facing me, and then I got the shot. He was standing at 25 and I don't have a 25-yard pin, so I kind of just held a little bit high with 20, but something happened and it clipped his spine and dropped him right on the pile. But oh my gosh, he's big. So after he dropped, I went and put another arrow in him just so he didn't have to suffer, and he's expired. But oh my gosh, tonight, oh man, I can't even believe that. Can't even believe it. I gotta thank my best friend, or I gotta thank Colby and Brad for just keeping me motivated this year, and because I'm usually the pretty negative one of the group, and so yeah, I gotta thank them, and I gotta thank my parents for allowing me to come out and do this as much as I do, and they have to put up with hearing about all these deer that I have on camera and all this stuff, and yeah, and my dad for getting me into hunting. I just harvested the biggest, just a world, I just harvested an absolute giant. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I harvested a giant. A world-class deer. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. Oh. Yeah, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. I don't know how good the footage is or any of that. I don't really care. All I care is that that deer expired, and I hope I never have something like that happen to me again, because I can't stand to watch something like that suffer. But oh my gosh. I'm gonna call Colby and Brad and everybody else and get them over here, and we're gonna celebrate tonight, because oh my goodness, I can't believe it. Oh my goodness. Well, I guess I'll get back to, I'm gonna wait until these guys get here, everybody gets here, and then we're gonna go retrieve it and all that.
And then Colby came after he was done hunting, and we took care of the deer, got it tagged, and we brought it back to town to show everybody. And everybody was in shock by how actually big the deer was. And that was truly awesome. So after that, we decided to go take a few pictures and call it a night.
Well guys, to say I'm at a loss for words is an understatement. Never did I ever think that I'd get to this point where I'm killing something like this. And it's just unbelievable that it happened tonight. This deer will probably be my biggest deer for a long time. So, I mean, I just can't believe it. October 4th. I've killed early every year. This deer made it a few more days longer from when I usually start killing. But, yeah. The shot wasn't the best. I can say that for a fact. I don't like to see deer suffer, and when I saw him suffering, I just felt terrible. But he was at an awkward distance. I didn't have a pin for it. I'm shooting a 3-pin, so I had to aim a little bit high, and it hit him high, and it was a good hit. It hit right here, but the arrow went up and clipped his spine, so he dropped right on the pile, which wasn't ideal. And yeah, so I had to go put another arrow in him, and I just watched him pass away. So it was a little tough, but I'm gonna make sure that I never do something like that again. But this deer is a deer of a lifetime. We named this deer Goliath. We gave him that nickname this year just because of his sheer size and what he came from last year. He blew up this year to something I didn't even think was possible. He was probably 130 plus inch 8-pointer, maybe up in the 140s last year with nubs for the G4s, and no split brows, nothing. And now he blew up and he's got, I'd say, almost 16 scorables. It's just nuts. And I couldn't have done it without Colby and Brad. They helped me out a lot this season with dumping feed, setting up the blind for this spot, and just kind of keeping me in a positive mindset because I'm usually pretty negative. So just be staying behind this deer is honestly incredible. It's a world-class deer. And yeah, but I also got to thank the Lord for this one. He blessed me with a giant. So what a great night. What a great way to kick off the season. Colby and Brad got a lot to catch up to. So hopefully they get on some big deer, and hopefully they get after their target deer too. So yeah, stay tuned, you guys. This is just the beginning. And what a way to kick it off.
Way down we go.